Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I have a review for you, the one book that I did not expect to ever read, even though it's one of the most hyped books that are out there on BookTube, Bookstagram, Book Talk, a lot of different things like that. So you already know from the title of the video, but this is going to have a lot of spoilers in it. I'm going to do kind of a deep dive into what I liked and what I didn't like about the book, and talk a little bit about the different characters and the story and the plot lines. So if you do not want to be spoiled, definitely click off of this video, and then come back. You can come and talk to me on my personal Instagram. Let's talk about what you liked and didn't like, and, you know, just talk all things about this book. So before we get into the review, I just wanted to remind you, definitely like this video. Definitely subscribe. Don't miss any of my content that's coming. Check my description below. It has my personal Instagram, my author services Instagram, and also my Goodreads if you want to follow for any of my reviews. So let's get into the review. Now, it is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Now, I was buddy reading this. If you watched my September TBR video, I started reading this with a buddy. She is not happy with me because I ended up reading this a lot faster than she did. Not necessarily because I'm a faster reader, but because, you know, she has a lot more going on in her life. She has kids, you know, she has different things like that, and I don't. So, you know, her finding time to read as opposed to me finding time to read are vastly different. But I cannot wait to hear what she has to think after she gets done reading. Now, this book I never expected to pick up. It is a historical fiction. It has some romance in it, but it's kind of set up as a biography slash memoir, you know, into Evelyn Hugo's life. Evelyn Hugo was a huge movie star in the 50s, 60s, 70s, I think even into the early 80s. She talks about, you know, the different things that she encountered within Hollywood, how she got to where she's at, and the different husbands along the way, on how they helped and almost broke her career. So this book starts out with a newspaper. Monique Grant works at a newspaper, and they get a letter from Evelyn Hugo's publicist, and they said that they want to do a basic tell-all, but the only person they will do that with is Monique Grant. Now, Monique is not necessarily a huge writer. She's not very well known. She's kind of lowest in the company. She is trying to make a name for herself, but she hasn't quite made it there because there are a lot of other journalists and editors and things that have a huge name, and she just isn't one of them. So the newspaper that she works at, they are very, you know, confused. They're like, why Monique Grant? So they try to counter Evelyn Hugo's offer for Monique Grant with, you know, a bunch of different bigger names. And basically Evelyn said, it's Monique or it's no one. So you make your choice. So they finally cave in. They go to Monique. They tell her what she needs to do. Of course, she's just as baffled. She's like, why me? All of these different things. So they tell her, you know, this can make your career if you get what we need out of this. So here we go. Monique is going to meet up with Evelyn. Evelyn is in her 70s, I believe. Early 80s, but her 70s, I think. She lives in an apartment in Manhattan in New York. And so Monique travels there. She meets with Evelyn. She, you know, kind of hears what Evelyn has to say about how she wants to do a tell-all, kind of like a biography detailing her life, and, you know, not holding back on anything. So Monique, rightfully so, asks her, why me? Why do you want me to cover this story? Why not someone bigger? What is it that, you know, it's me and not anybody else? And so basically Evelyn says, I'm not going to tell you anything. Everything will come out in time. All of your questions will be answered by the end of it. Are you in? So Monique ponders it and she says, okay, let's do this, So here we go where, it's like the next day, or actually I think it's over the weekend, that you get Monique's perspective where she is living on her own now. She is going through a separation. She was married to this guy for less than a year. He left her. So, you kind of get her, point of view where she talks about how typically she's used to being alone, but she is more lonely. He took the coffee table and she doesn't understand why. I mean, I don't know why that was such a big emphasis, in the very beginning. But basically, you get all of this where she ponders it. And then Monday morning, she shows up at Evelyn's apartment. And so Evelyn tells her, we're not doing an article and, a photo shoot for these gowns that I am donating to the cancer research that's supposed to bring in like a few $1 million. I want you to write my biography. And it is not going to be published by your newspaper. I want it to be published by you whenever I die. And Monique is like, wait a second, I'm going to lose my job if I do this. I can't just betray, my job and lose everything because, who knows, you could live for another 5 or 10 years. And, if you won't let me publish this until, you pass, I'm going to have a source of income. So Monique is a little hesitant, right? So finally, Evelyn says, in a roundabout way, are you going to do what you need to do to get ahead in your career, or are you just going to keep doing what people tell you to do? So Monique, all fired up and everything, says, let's dive into this. So Evelyn starts out talking about her first husband. It's a very brief kind of part of the book. She talks about how she was 14, I believe. She met this guy named Ernie. He lived like in the same neighborhood, the same apartment complex as her. He was older, so she kind of, knows that he's her ticket to go to Los Angeles. She wants to be a star. She wants to be, on the Hollywood carpet. So she kind of seduces him in a way. She lies about her age. Of course, this is the 50s, so things were quite different at the time. Not saying that it makes it right, but things were quite different at the time. And, she seduces him or whatever, ends up getting married to him. They go to LA. She very quickly starts taking on a waitressing job to be around all of these movie producers and different things. And so she purposely bumps into Harry Cameron, I believe, who is the first producer she ever met. Then she goes and talks to, wanders into the restricted area where the producers are and things, to the head producer of this, company. And, he takes a liking to her. And basically, from the beginning, she talks about how she trades sex for her stardom, is what happened. And so, granted, you don't like to hear about it because you're like, why are you trading sexual favors and, basically your integrity and your morality to get ahead? But you have to also get into the mindset of how things really were back in the 50s. Women were not revered like they are now. To get ahead, you had to give up some of your dignity, which is not right, but that is how Hollywood used to be. So she did that. Without a shame, without a care in the world, she did it. She divorced her first husband very quickly, started, acting. She ended up, co-starring next to one of the big movie stars. This is where the second part comes in of her second husband. So they quickly have chemistry on set. She talks about how, she fell in love with him very quickly. This is one of the longer parts of the book. So her second husband really shapes how this book is going to go. I think really shapes Evelyn in a sense because, it starts out where they're so in love. They have this honeymoon phase. Everybody loves them. Paparazzi can't get enough of who they are. And, you know, very quickly, whenever her second husband, Don Adler, he starts seeing that she is shining. She's rising above him, and he doesn't like that, right? So he turns into this angry, you know, guy. He starts abusing Evelyn. So Evelyn has to start, you know, covering up bruises and things. This whole time that she is married to Don, Harry Cameron, remember the guy that she, you know, bumped into at the very start, who is one of the producers, they quickly become really good friends, okay? And I wouldn't say quickly because it kind of evolved over time, but they instantly had that friendship connection, right? And so Harry starts seeing all of these bruises on Evelyn, and he's like, I'm gonna kill him, I'm gonna get him, you know, all these things. And, you know, Evelyn's like, don't do that, because she knows in her head, even though she started out actually truly loving Don Adler, she realizes that even though she doesn't love him, she needs him alive. She needs him, you know, still wanting to be with her, because she's still trying to make a name for herself. So, you know, she's like, Harry, don't do that. You know, I've got this under control, yada, yada. So throughout the whole Dawn part, there are a lot of ups and downs with Evelyn. You see her go through this different transformation where she starts out in love. She's never met a guy like Dawn. She thinks that he's amazing. You know, he's one of the most handsome guys she's ever seen. She never thought that sex actually could be enjoyable. Because remember, before Dawn, she was trading sexual favors and sex to get ahead, right? To become a movie star. So whenever she finally is experiencing that, and, you know, she takes the abuse and how Dawn treats her at first and kind of pushes it to the side. She tries to ignore it. She knows what's going on, but she doesn't try to make that a focal point. Now, as it goes on and she, you know, starts getting more famous and all of these things, she meets Celia St. James, who is one of the rising up and coming stars. She's a little bit younger than Evelyn, you know, just as beautiful. And so Evelyn's like, she's going to be, you know, our competition. We can't do this, you know, because she is doing this big movie called Little Women that co-stars a bunch of big actresses, but she does not want to be outshone by Celia St. James, right? So she starts off being mean to Celia, right? Like coming off very brash, very gruff, you know, and Celia is like, you know, let's go get a milkshake, right? And so, of course, Evelyn is like, no, you want to be seen with me. You want to further your career. We're not doing that. I will not be seen with you unless I give that permission. Well, Celia, along the way, actually, sorry, my animals are being kind of crazy this morning. So Celia quickly earns Evelyn's respect because she tries to tell it like it is and everything. And this whole time, Evelyn talks about how she lied. She lied to a lot of people. She did it without any type of remorse. So throughout the very beginning, I'm like, what is true from Evelyn, right? Because, like, you know, she talks about the abuse with Dawn, but then she talks about how Celia quickly got her respect. And part of me was like, what honestly is true? Because the way that this book is written, it is not a book where it's telling you, like, it's actually showing you affection. It's not showing you, you know, her life. It's more of her just telling you, right? And so that's a different way than I'm used to reading books. I'm used to feeling the emotion, feeling the, you know, atmosphere around these characters and, you know, feeling their chemistry and their anger towards each other. And this book does not give you that. This book is like, I went here, I did this, I said this. And instead of, you know, being descriptive and, you know, I can't believe, you know, that this was happening, you know, my feelings were rushed. It wasn't anything like that. It was, I did this, I went here, you know. So that is one thing that my friend did point out, because she is probably halfway through the book at this point or close to it. And she said that she doesn't really like the way that the structure of the book is, because it's telling you. It's not showing you. And I would agree with that. If you don't like books that just tell you how you're supposed to feel or tell you how things are supposed to go, this might not be a book for you. So throughout this whole thing, her and Celia become really good friends. They're seen all over, you know, Hollywood together. They're photographed. They're best friends, all of these things. And her and Dawn's marriage is quickly deteriorating. And so you see Dawn like having affairs. Like she catches him in an act with another woman. Now, granted, she doesn't see it at first, but somebody else, you know, tells her that that's what's going on. And for some reason, she is so upset and so hurt and so betrayed by this, right? Now, as a reader, I, you know, was sitting there thinking, you know, why do you care so much, Evelyn? He's been abusing you. He's been treating you like you're absolute dirt, that you mean nothing to him. So why did this hurt you so bad? And what I came to the conclusion of is, yes, she did love him at the very beginning. She did. She truly loved him. However, I think it was more, you know, this is my reputation. I have started making a name for myself. How dare you, right? So she quickly wants a divorce from him, and he does not want to let her go. So there is, you know, this nasty separation. And one thing that I like about it is throughout the book, you get these newspaper clippings, right, from these journalists and things talking about her life or what they're going on. So she ends up getting blackballed from all these other production companies. She ends up, you know, throughout all of this. So she doesn't know what to do. And her and Celia are really good friends, but she doesn't want to be seen with Celia because she doesn't want to bring Celia's reputation down, right? Well, after a little bit of time, she finds out that Celia is a lesbian, right? So one of her friends tells her that, and that was a big shocker for me because I did not expect there to be an LGBTQ representation in this book. I didn't really try to look deep into what people were saying because I wanted to be, you know, shocked myself throughout this book. So whenever I saw that, I was like, okay, I kind of like the representation in here, especially in the early 60s, whenever it was very taboo. You did not talk about it. You know, people were, you know, treated horribly if you liked someone of the same gender, if, you know, you fell in love with someone like that. People did not like that. And so it was very taboo. And I kind of liked that a little bit. But whenever she finds out about Celia, the one thing I really liked about it is the fact that she did not run away. She didn't hate Celia for it. She didn't think anything less of her. I mean, she was shocked, rightfully so, because she didn't know that about her, right? But she didn't run away from it. And instead, the chapter ends with, I have to go find Celia right now. Like, as soon as she found out she was a lesbian, she's like, I gotta go find her right now. So, you know, that's how the chapter ended. And I was, I guess, shocked because I was like, okay, is this really where we're going? Right? Like, is that a thing? Because it says the 7 husbands of Evelyn Hugo, not the 7 spouses. Okay. So I'm like, how is this going to go? And quickly you find out that she feels the same about Celia. She, you know, they fall in love with each other. They keep their relationship a secret. She would stay over at Celia's house a lot. And then, you know, there's a big chunk of the book where they talk about their relationship, their love, what they go through. And the one thing that I will say is Taylor Jenkins Reid did an amazing job with an LGBTQ representation. Now, I have some friends, you know, that are part of that community, and I love them to pieces for it, you know, and I know what they go through sometimes. I mean, I may not emotionally understand, but I see, you know, what they go through. And Taylor Jenkins Reid hit this on the head 100%, because she does not, she doesn't make it like a fairy tale, right? Like, oh, they're in love, they never have any issues, and they just live happily ever after, right? And that is not what they do. She represents how they have to hide from the media, how they have to keep things a secret. They have to, you know, sneak around. Like Celia buys a different car, like a rundown car that she parks outside of Evelyn's house whenever she's there, because people are starting to notice how much time they're spending together. They're starting to question in the newspaper articles, why is Evelyn spending so much time at Celia St. James's house, right? So they have to go to those great lengths, buying these, you know, junker cars, only seeing each other at night, never being seen in public, and all of this stuff. So whenever the media starts really bearing down on it and asking questions, Evelyn comes up with a great idea. I'm going to seduce this rock star who has this biggest crush on me, because he's been seen in the newspaper articles talking about how he would love to marry Evelyn Hugo. He would love to meet her, all of these things. So what happens is she goes to a concert of his with Harry and Celia, and she, you know, tries to make it, you know, a pull thing where she goes and sees him. And in one part of the concert, Evelyn puts her hand on Celia, you know, briefly, but somebody else catches that intimate moment with them, and she starts talking, and now they're really frantically, you know, trying to cover this up. So Evelyn gives you a very quick, you know, thing about, this is what you do. You take him to Vegas. You get him really drunk. You know, make him think that he's going to get lucky that night. You know, do all of these things. And then, you know, whenever it comes down to doing something, you say, oh, no, I can't because I'm not married, kind of thing. And then, finally, you know, you let it be his idea. Oh, let's go get married, right? And then they get married. They have, you know, their sexy time. And then the next morning, whenever he wants some more, you have to be like, you know, brash and tell him, no, I'm not into that, blah, blah, blah. And then make him say, well, this has been fun, baby, but, you know, blah, 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 we're going to get this annulled. So she did it for the headlines. She did it for the newspaper to get them off of her and Celia's back. Celia was not happy with the plan in the first place, because she loves her. She doesn't want to think about her being with anybody else. And so if she was not on board with it at all. Evelyn comes back from Vegas. Celia is not happy at all that she even did it. Then about a month later, Evelyn is pregnant. They're at the pool, her and Celia are. And she tells Celia that she's pregnant, and Celia loses it, right? She's like, I didn't think you were going to sleep with him. I just thought that, you know, you were going to tease him enough to, you know, do this or whatever. But that breaks my heart, Evelyn. And I mean, she just absolutely loses it, and rightfully so, because she wasn't told about the whole plan. And Evelyn's like, well, I thought that was implied, Celia. I thought you knew that's what I was going to do. No, like, you talk about things, Evelyn. You communicate, right? And so Celia, like, leaves. She packs up her stuff. She leaves. Evelyn doesn't, you know, run to find her. She doesn't, you know, try to get her to come back. She just lets her go, even though she's heartbroken, right? So now here we are. Evelyn has been building up her career again, right? Because remember, she was blackballed from Dawn. No one wanted to work with her. Now we're 3 husbands in, right? She annulled her marriage to Mick, who was just that one night thing. She does talk about a heavy subject, about how she asks Harry to drive her to, I think, Mexico, to have an abortion. And I know that's a heavy topic for a lot of people. So if you do not want to read about that, definitely stay away, because even though it is a brief moment and it is never talked about again, it is talked about. There are a few pages in there where her and Harry are talking about it. They're traveling down there, all of this stuff. So if that triggers you, definitely stay away from this book. Now, here we are. She's been rebuilding her career. She went to France now to star in a movie there where she ends up showing her boobies. Actually, she doesn't show her boobies. She's like coming out of the water and it cuts off right before you see it. And now Evelyn Hugo is a huge sensation again, right? Because she's like one of the most beautiful actresses. And she ends up, over time, she marries her fourth husband. And her fourth husband is a guy that she just enters into an agreement with. She's like, listen, we're not going to have sex. We're not going to do any of this, right? But if we marry, then our movies are going to soar. People are going to love them. All of this stuff, right? So he agrees. He agrees, and she's like, you can do whatever you want. You can go sleep with whoever you want, just as long as you do it away from paparazzi where no one knows anything, so it doesn't come back on us. So he agrees, and they are married for a few years, you know, just making these movies, you know, eating up the stardom. They're becoming richer than they ever thought they could. Harry is there because Harry is still like producing, like him and Evelyn now are producing movies together. And I really like their dynamic. Now, the one thing I will say that I did not mention is Harry is actually gay. He has been with a lot of men in Hollywood, right? Evelyn knows this. And so Harry always, you know, was there for Evelyn. He always was like, yeah, you and Celia, I'll do anything for you. Like, he knew about everything. Like, Harry has been her best friend, right? So towards the end of her fourth husband's marriage, he tells her that it's time to separate because he loves another actress. She's actually pregnant. And so Evelyn is like, yes, okay, let's do this. Here's how we're going to do it, right? So she comes up with a plan that her and Harry are going to be up at this Lover's Lane type thing, and they're going to tip off the paparazzi somehow that, you know, Evelyn Hugo and Harry Cameron are alone together. And so Evelyn is going to put it all on her, right? She's going to put it that she's the cheater, that she's the one that stepped out of their marriage because she doesn't want to ruin his reputation. He's done everything that she has asked, right? Like, he has upheld everything. And so, she calls one of the other actresses, says, you know, do this tip-off. Her and Harry get caught. They're all over the tabloids. Her and her fourth husband separate, and there you go, right? So now Evelyn is by herself, which is fine, you know, and she's going along. Well, she's still missing Celia. She wants Celia. Celia is the greatest love of her life, right? Now, her and Harry, after some time, they come up with this idea. It's more on Evelyn, right? Not on Harry. But Evelyn is like, listen, Harry, I want Celia, right? You clearly love men. So to protect our reputations, let's get married. Let's form this, you know, kind of agreement thing. And, the reason why they come up with this agreement is because Evelyn finds out that Celia got married to a guy named John. He is a professional football player. So it breaks Evelyn's heart because she thinks that, you know, they're in love and all these things. But then she finds out from Harry that Harry has actually been seeing John, right? And that Celia and John are just in an arrangement. They are not in love. They are not sleeping together. They're in an arrangement. So now Evelyn has hope, right? So she tells Harry, let's do it. Let's get married, all of these things. So they get married. Everybody is like, whoa, no, didn't see this coming, blah, blah, blah. So then now she's with Harry. She is, you know, at the top of her career, her and Harry are, And finally, she's at an awards, and if she wins the award, Harry says, you have to go talk to her. You have to go talk to Celia. She doesn't win the award, but her and Celia end up talking in this bathroom. They almost get caught again. And they, are just going along, and they get back together. So now you have her and Harry married. You have Celia and John married. Harry is in a relationship with John. Evelyn is in a relationship with Celia. They live in New York. Their apartments are like right next to each other, like within a block or something. So Harry is living with John. Evelyn is living with Celia. They're doing movies, her and Harry are. They're just at the top of the world, right? And now her and Harry have been married for like 7 or 8 years. She's getting older. She's like 36 or 37. She wants to have a family because that was one of the stipulations that Harry said. He said, I know that we're both in love with other people, but if we get married, I'm going to want children. And so Evelyn said, I will too. They agreed on that. But now they're 7 or 8 years into their marriage. And she's getting older. She knows that her time is not much. So she finally comes up with the idea of, now let's have a baby. But she does it the right way, right? She talks to Celia while Harry talks to John. And they have an in-depth conversation about, having a baby, what it entails, all these things. And of course, Celia is like, I can't go through this again, Evelyn, I can't do it. But she comes around. Now, at first, Celia was like, why don't you do the in vitro, right? Why don't you have it artificially inseminated like some people are doing? And Evelyn is like, I can't do that because I don't want someone to find out, because then that's really going to put a spotlight on Harry and I's marriage, because why do we have to go to those great lengths, right? Like, why are we just not creating a baby normally? So Celia is not on board with it, but she does end up becoming on board with it. You don't really get a whole lot of context on her and Harry having sex or how they're making the baby. Like, they go from that conversation to boom, Evelyn has a baby and they're all living as a happy family, right? And so everything's still good. Her and Celia are going good. John and Harry are still going good. And then, like, whenever the child is like a year and a half, still quite young, Evelyn, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. So Evelyn gets into another movie from that French producer, right, who had brought her back into stardom. And, he's like, I want to do this, you'll have to do like this sex scene, blah, blah, blah. And you are going to be starring alongside your ex-husband, Don Adler. And so Evelyn's like, I can do this. I can do this. So she meets Dawn. She talks to Dawn, and she's like, we're never going to be friends, blah, blah, blah. Dawn talks about how he's sober, how he's not, the same man or all this, whatever. And he just wants her forgiveness. So she does. She agrees to do the movie with him. And then finally, Evelyn has this big epiphany with the producer. Let's make the sex scene like very steamy, very sexy, very taboo, right? Like, this has not been done before in Hollywood. And she does not tell Celia. We thought Evelyn was changed. We have not seen the change in Evelyn yet. So she does not tell Celia. She does this scene. And then that night, she tells Celia, like, oh, he wants me to do this scene, blah, blah, blah. This is what it's going to entail. And Celia is like, absolutely not. I went through the fake marriage with you in, Las Vegas. Then, you had to have sex with Harry who knows how many times to have your child, which I was okay with. But I am not okay with this. I'm not okay with this, Evelyn. And I'm asking you not to do it. Well, Evelyn's already done it, right? So she tells Celia that she's already done it. Celia's had enough. She's like, I'm out. I'm done. I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. You've hurt me too many times, Evelyn. Blah, blah, blah. So she leaves, right? Her and John go, or actually she divorces John. so John can stay with Harry. And Celia goes back to Los Angeles. And Evelyn is just shattered, but her and Harry, you know, continue to raise their daughter and all of this. John ends up dying from like a heart attack or something like that. So Harry is devastated, right? Like just shattered, okay? And Evelyn doesn't know how to bring him out of that. So now here we are, we're going through a very depressive part of this book, which I think Taylor Jenkins Reid did a great job on, because she shows grief and she shows the pain and, you know, what people go through very, very well. Now, you may not be feeling the emotions, but being told on what is happening and someone's thoughts and things, she does an amazing job on it. So, we have Evelyn trying to bring, you know, Harry out of it. She divorces Harry. Her and Harry are like, you know what, maybe it's time we divorce, you know, blah, blah, blah. We have this great daughter and stuff, but I think it's time we move on with our lives. They've been married for like 15 years at this point. And so longest marriage of her life. And of course, basically all of it was her and Celia being together. And so they divorce, right? But she's still trying to get Harry out of his slump. He's still a good dad. He's always there for their daughter. They go back to LA to do some producing and stuff. And then, you know, like a few years go by, and then she meets up with Celia again. And here we are again. Actually, she doesn't meet up with Celia yet. She marries the producer. Remember the one that does the sexy, spicy scenes? Yep, that's the producer that she marries. And she quickly finds out that he is not a good guy. He is only with her because he wants to be seen with her. He, you know, basically uses her. And she finds that out. And so she ends up writing Celia. And her and Celia are writing back and forth, and you get their little love notes, you know, in here, you know, back and forth. They're not detailed, right? They're just like one-liners or two-liners. Finally, Celia agrees to meet with her. So she's planning a trip to LA to just go have lunch with her as friends, okay? And so she's planning on divorcing this producer guy. So she is on her way to the airport to go to LA to meet Celia. Now, she forgets something, like she's like, oh, I need to go back and get those notes. I don't want anyone to find them, blah, 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 even though I hid them. She comes back and finds the husband has found all the letters. And so he is like, I'm going to expose you, Evelyn Hugo. I'm going to tell everybody your career is done. I can't believe I was married to a lesbian. And of course, Evelyn's trying to tell him, I'm not a lesbian. You know, I like men and I like women, right? And he just doesn't differentiate the fact, because he lives in a time period where there's not both, right? You can't love both types of genders. You can't love, you know, more than one person. Like, he just doesn't comprehend that. So, she ends up ruining his career, actually, with all of these, like, rumors and different things that were going on. So then by the time he came out saying that she was a lesbian and all of these things, no one believed him. They just thought that he was, you know, a husband who was just done dirty by his wife, right? So her and Celia meet back up. Now she's been divorced from 6 husbands at this point. So she meets up with Celia. It's been quite a while, right? Like, I think it's been 10 years or something since they've seen each other. And so she, her and Celia quickly get back into it. She's like, I'm ready to come out of the closet, Celia. I'm ready to tell the world. I'm ready to just have you in my life. Let's do it. I will retire from Hollywood. I will do this. I will do that, right? So Evelyn had finally won an Emmy or a Grammy or an Oscar, I think, possibly is what it's called. And So she feels like her career is complete. Like she's a multi-million dollar, you know, actress. Everybody knows the name Evelyn Hugo. She's a huge star. Like she, you know, just as a household name. So she's ready to give all of that up for Celia, right? Because that's what Celia's been wanting this whole time. So Celia breaks the news to her and tells her, Evelyn, I'm actually not good. I'm not well. I have been diagnosed with COPD, which is emphysema. The doctors, of course, this is the 80s, so, you know, they don't know a whole lot, right, about COPD. And she's like, I have 10 years at most, and, you know, I don't want you to go through that because that's going to be too painful for you. And, of course, Evelyn's like, screw that. I love you, Celia. I want to be there until your last day. So now her daughter is a teenager. She is having a lot of issues, you know, in school. So Celia is like, after your next movie, Evelyn, because she's in the middle of doing a movie in LA. After your next movie, let's move to Spain. You know, you and Harry and your daughter, and then, you know, you can marry my brother. So then that way, whenever I die and I leave you, you know, my estate and my money, it's going to my brother and you kind of thing. So no one thinks anything. And so, Evelyn doesn't want to marry her brother. She's like, I don't want to do that to somebody else. I just want to be with you, Celia. And so Celia's like, this is the only way that we can do it. So now Evelyn is on this mission while she's doing this movie to convince Harry to move to Spain. And Harry doesn't want to. Harry has finally fell in love with someone else. And he is in LA. And you know, he's like, I don't want to move, Evelyn. I love this guy. You know, I never thought that I'd feel this way after John. And so now Evelyn is conflicted, right? Because Harry has sacrificed a lot for Evelyn. What has Evelyn done for Harry, right? So she's very conflicted with it. They wrap up their movie. She calls her daughter who's in New York, and she said, you know, we're going to be there after we're going to get on the red eye. We're going to be there tonight. So whenever you wake up tomorrow, we're there, me and your dad. So Harry and her are talking, and, you know, she's like, you know what, Harry, we can discuss this on the plane. We can discuss this later, you know, blah, blah, blah. So Harry leaves, and of course, Harry has a drinking problem, okay? And next thing I know, Evelyn is in her car, and she's like, we got to go pick up Harry, right, to go to the airport so we can go home to see our daughter in New York. And she rolls up to Harry's place, and they hadn't really got to talk about, you know, moving to Spain much, you know, because she was like, we're going to talk about it later. There's like this fire and smoke and everything, and she sees this vehicle that's wrapped around another vehicle, and so she, you know, jumps up to go see what's going on, because this is outside of Harry's place, and it is Harry in the driver's seat with a man in the passenger seat, which Evelyn can only put two and two together, that is the man that he loves, and that man is dead. Okay, Harry is still breathing. Harry is still alive. So Evelyn is like, I have to save his reputation. No one can know what's going on. And so she talks to the driver. She gets Harry out of the car. Then they move his lover into the driver's seat to make it look like he was driving. And then they put Harry in the back of their car, and they just go to this hospital, and Harry ends up dying. I was so sad. Like, I want to cry right now because he dies, and that was Evelyn's best friend, right? That is the father of her daughter. Just Harry has always been a part of her life, and so it breaks my heart to read that. I was just a mess, right? And so now Evelyn's like, we can't move to Spain? What are you thinking? We can't move to Spain. And so now her daughter, who is like 13, 14, or 15, somewhere in that age group. She is just acting out, you know, the tabloids are talking about how she's having sex with people and just, you know, not being who she needs to be. So now Evelyn's like, I need to do what's best for my daughter, right? So she agrees to move to Spain with Celia. She agrees to marry Celia's brother because Celia's brother likes to just be with all these other women, and he is okay with marrying Evelyn for these reasons, okay? So now they're living in Spain. You flash forward, because you're on the 7th and final husband, right? You flash forward. They're in their 60s, I think, and all of a sudden, you're basically watching, you know, their life together. You know, Evelyn learns how to cook. Her daughter, you know, finally settles down, stops acting out, and she ends up going to college. Like, a lot of years pass in a very short amount of time, like in the book, okay? And so all of a sudden you get this whole thing, you know, where Celia dies, and then Evelyn, because her daughter is, you know, out of college now, working for a broker group. She actually got really close to Celia's brother as a father figure. She knows about her mom and Celia. Her mom came out and told the truth about it. She supports her and everything. So now she takes Celia. Now she's lost two people that she loves, right? She's lost her best friend, and now she's lost Celia, the love of her life. And she takes her back to LA. She buries her rather closely to Harry, but next to John, you know, kind of bringing that full circle. And then you see Evelyn, she gets, you know, like in this tabloid again because they see her mourning in front of Harry's, you know, tomb thing. And the press think it's because she's mourning the loss of Harry, that she loved Harry the most and like all of this stuff, whenever really she went to the grave to talk to Harry about how she doesn't know what to do now without Celia. Now I'm about to cry too, because it's so touching, so touching. Like a book that is written as telling you and not showing you emotion has came full circle, made me feel all of these emotions, and now I don't know what to think, because now my heart breaks for Evelyn Hugo, right? Like I am breaking for what she has went through, what she has sacrificed, all of these things. And then what happens? Even worse, her daughter gets diagnosed with cancer at like 37 or 39. I want to say it's breast cancer. Gets diagnosed and dies. So now Evelyn has lost Harry. She's lost Celia. She's lost John, who is a friend. She's lost Celia's brother because he's died. Now she's lost her daughter. Evelyn has nobody. Like, this poor woman has went through so much, sacrificed so much, done so much, lied, betrayed, loved. Oh my gosh, now I'm reeling, okay? Like, I'm crying, I'm a mess. I'm just like, Evelyn, I'm so sorry you went through all this. Like, my husband did not know what to do. So now here we are at the very, very end, right? And now we're about to find out the biggest thing of all. Why did Evelyn Hugo want Monique Grant? Remember, we've been in Evelyn's mind this whole time, so we've probably forgot about Monique, but why is Monique there? We're about to find out. So, like I said, if you don't want to know this ending, you better turn off. So, we're like within the last, I want to say like 20 pages of this book. And Evelyn's like, there's my story, there's my life, do what you will, don't settle for less, blah, 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 all of these things. She comes out and she says that she has been diagnosed with breast cancer at like 70-something years old, 79. She's like, I didn't realize it could be hereditary, all of these things. Evelyn is like, I'm going to die soon. Don't settle for less. Make my biography great. And then the one thing that I love about Evelyn so much is that she tells Monique, don't make me seem like a good person. I want you to tell them Evelyn Hugo did not care. Evelyn Hugo did what she had to do. She lied and she betrayed and she hurt people. I want you to be honest, because I don't want people to memorialize me and think that I was this amazing person and that I did all of these great things in my life. She's like, no, you tell them the truth, Monique. You tell them how horrible I was, how bad of a person I was. And Monique's like, whoa, okay, you know, like, I can do that for you. Like, I will be honest. And so finally, here it comes, guys. Here it comes. We've heard Evelyn's life. We know she's dying from breast cancer. She's giving away these famous gowns. And she pulls out of her pocket a letter, a crumpled letter, and it has blood on it. Do you remember? Do you remember the accident that Harry was in? And, oh my God, I might cry. Okay? Like, listen, if I start crying, I'm sorry. But do you remember that wreck that Harry killed his lover and then he died? So Monique is black or half black, right? So she's always related to Evelyn, because she's like, I've never met anyone that you know, like, was half anything, you know, that they, you know, represented and stuff. And so she kind of equated that to Evelyn loving men and women, you know, being bisexual. So she's half and half. She was like, I'm white and black, so I'm half and half. That's kind of how she justified it in her head. And Evelyn gives her the note, and she tells her before she opens it, she said, oh my gosh, what was his name? Hold on. I don't remember. I wish that I would have written his name down, because that would have been a great thing to tell you. But anyway, nonetheless, she says, Harry's love of his life that died in that wreck was black, and his name was something Grant. It was Monique's father. Monique's father is who Harry was in love with. He was willing to stay in LA. He was willing to sacrifice everything for this guy. And the night that they had the wreck, you start getting pieces from Evelyn, from the letter, right? So you're reading this letter that her father had wrote to Harry that he was going to give him. Or actually, I think gave him, because Harry had it in his pocket. And it detailed about how he loved Harry, how Harry was like the love of his life. But he's like, I have a wife that I respect and that I cannot hurt. And I have a daughter. Her name is Monique. She's 8 years old. And I can't do that to her. I am going to stay with her mother, and I am going to give her the best life because I love my daughter. You guys, I am holding back tears right now, because this book, I did not expect that. I was thinking that Monique was like some like daughter that she gave up, because we already talked about abortion, right? So why not throw adoption in there, you know, giving up her child for adoption? Well, that wasn't the case. So now I'm a blubbering mess. Monique is full on angry. She hates Evelyn, wants nothing to do with Evelyn. Like, I mean, just goes off on her, right? Like, you covered this up. I went my whole life thinking that my father was, you know, behind a wheel drinking and driving, which wasn't like him. And I had to forgive him for that so I could, you know, mourn him and grieve him and move on. And you're telling me that my father wasn't even the driver and that Harry is the one that killed him. But you wanted to save Harry because he was your friend. He was your daughter's father. And so you didn't give a crap about my dad. And so, you know, Evelyn's like, I never said that I did things the right way. I never said that I was justified. I'm giving you the evidence. Do with it what you will. And I'm like, Evelyn, why are you giving me all these emotions about your life? And now you are being callous and brutal. Like, what are you doing? Anyway, that is how it ends. Next, you know, the next scene that you get is Monique meeting, you know, her mom comes to, you know, New York, and they have a moment. It isn't really anything special, but it kind of wraps up that. And then, you know, the photo shoot that she got Evelyn to agree to was happening that day. So she shows up at the apartment fuming about Evelyn, but really not being as mad because she kind of, you know, wants to forgive Evelyn because she got kind of close to her. So she's very conflicted. And then at the very end, after everyone has left the apartment and Evelyn's all dolled up and glamored, right? She makes another comment to Monique. And she said, do you remember? I told you the reason why I chose you was not just because of who you are, but it was because of the article you wrote about someone's right to choose their death. Assisted suicide, basically. And you were very moving and powerful and emotional in that. And, you know, I loved that article. And so, you know, Monique's like, okay, you know, not really, you know, understanding why you decided to bring that up again, but okay. And so Monique leaves. You know, she doesn't necessarily say that she forgives Evelyn or anything, but there is a moment between them where it's kind of like an understanding almost. So Monique leaves, and next thing you know, she is getting ready to get on the subway to go see her mother, and she starts thinking, she's like, oh wait, Evelyn has breast cancer. She's going to die. She liked me because of my article that I wrote about assisted suicide. I should go back. I should stop her. You know, she's going to kill herself, all of these things. And Monique's like, but I can't, because that's what Evelyn wants. And so she's conflicted, and she gets on the subway, she gets home, and she lets Evelyn just go in peace, right? Like, that's what Evelyn wanted. Here we are. We're at the end, right? You get, at the very end, you get these, you know, articles that says Evelyn Hugo has died, you know, and it's, you know, basically saying that she must have taken, you know, different medications, you know, or the wrong dosages, you know, so it's not a suicide or anything. Now, her gowns are going to be worth a lot more. The book that Monique is going to write, she's going to get millions upon millions of dollars for it. So it's kind of Evelyn's way to say, I'm sorry, without saying I'm sorry about your father. Like, I'm going to give you millions of dollars, Monique. Millions of dollars. So, how did I feel about this book? I loved it. I cried. I fumed. I was angry. I don't think I will ever read it again. But I might read more from this author. I don't know. I don't know, because, like I said, I'm on the same page as my friend, where you're told how to feel. You're not given that choice to feel what you want to feel, right? Now, granted, towards the end, you know, I was a blubbering mess. I was crying. Everyone was dying, you know, blah, blah. I was invested, but I think it was more because I was invested in the story and not really the characters. I didn't feel for Harry. I felt for the situation, if that makes sense. I felt for Evelyn in a sense of, girl, you went through a lot, like you did a lot, but at the same time, I didn't care for Evelyn as a character, because I never was able to get into her emotions, get into her mind, get into any of these things, right? And so I loved it and I didn't like it. I gave this book 4 stars. It definitely delivered everything that I would want in a book. it just did not give me that 5-star wow factor. If I was able to feel for the characters more, if I was able to discern my own emotions instead of being told how to feel, I think it would have been a very clear 5-star read. I loved it. I think Taylor Jenkins Reid delivered on the aspect of a biography, but written in a way that you would like. I get a lot of Marilyn Monroe vibes, Elizabeth Taylor vibes, women that were in that era that were wrapped up in a lot of scandal, that were wrapped up into a lot of marriages, you know, that clearly did things to get ahead on where they were at. I get a lot of those vibes. So if you are into old-timey Hollywood, if you are into any one of those, you know, actresses during that time that rose to stardom, you know, and had a lot of scandal, had a lot of things going on. Like I said, Elizabeth Taylor, Marilyn Monroe, you're going to love, love, love this book. You're going to love it. I know that basically we have just talked about the entire book in great length because this video is ridiculously long. One of my longest videos I've ever created. But I feel like this book deserved it. I feel like it deserved our time of going husband to husband, talking about a lot of the different big points in here. I feel like it deserved a lot. I see why it's very hyped. I see why a lot of people love it. I will be keeping this book. I'm not unhauling it. I don't think I will ever read it again. I might, but it's a 4-star read. It gave me a lot of emotion. It gave me a lot of feels in a lot of different ways that I'm used to feeling. I really liked how the story was written. I really liked, you know, how the flow of everything went. I really liked how she broke it up from husband to husband. I really like how she broke it up with a lot of news articles in there. And you could kind of see like how the tabloids played a factor in how Evelyn lived her life. And so I really, really enjoyed this book. I can't wait to hear what my friend has to say about it. I really hope my friend is not watching this video and running the whole book for herself, because that is not a good thing to do. But I can't wait. I really enjoyed it. Really, really enjoyed it. It is one of my favorite books this entire year. And so maybe I'll give some of this, you know, genre or books that are similar or kind of give a similar vibe, maybe I'll give them more of a try. I didn't expect to love it as much as I did, but I can definitely see where all the hype is. So if you liked this book, if you've read it, maybe if you haven't read it, but you wanted, you know, to know what the book is about, let's talk about it, because oh my goodness, I still have so many different thoughts. There's a lot of things that I didn't tell you about this book. There is a lot of things that I still have on my mind that I want to get off, but my goodness, this video is already over an hour long. And if you are still watching at this point, please put a emoji in the description below. Put a green heart for Evelyn, because she wore a lot of green, you know, dresses. I want to know if you're still here. I want to know if you liked my deep dive into this book, where we went basically chapter to chapter, basically husband to husband. We talked about Evelyn's life. We talked about how there was great LGBTQ plus representation in here. There was, I mean, I think that was a phenomenal job well done. I think that, you know, the talk of abortion was done very well. I think the talk of assisted suicide was done extremely, extremely well. All of those hard-hitting topics that people are triggered by or that don't want to read about, you know, but maybe end up finding it in a book, this is done extremely well. So if they are triggers, definitely stay away. But if you are one that is like, you know, it is a trigger for me, but I'm willing to give it a try and see what it's like, I feel like you will not be disappointed, because it's done in a very, very tactful way. Taylor Jenkins Reid's, you know, definitely proceeds with caution. uses empathy, uses care, understands that it is a very touchy subject, but also doesn't shy away from it, pick it up. So anyway, that is my super long review into this book. Like I said, come to my Instagram. Let's talk about it. Follow me on Goodreads if you want to. Put a green heart in the description or in the comments. I want to know if you're still here. My allergies are acting up right now. I went to my cousin's last night. He lives out in the woods. And of course, you know, it's fall and my allergies are all sorts of messed up. So I'm going to go. My voice is about to go out to get me some like hot tea or something. And I will be back. So until next time, everyone, I hope you have a great day. Bye.